All right, it's 6:30. Should we kick it off?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let me know when I'm good to go.
You are good to go in my eyes.
All right, cool. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Let's Talk About It series. This quarter, we are lucky to have Dr. Nicole with us. I'm going to be discussing acupuncture for perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, along with some other wellness opportunities and supporting women's health. Just to give a couple of updates about BCN and what we have coming up. We have our open house happening on October 23rd. It's a Thursday from 3 to 6 p.m. That is when our doors will be open. You're welcome to drop in anytime between 3 and 6. We'll have some refreshments, some information from other organizations, and the chance to get to know some of our instructors. Registration for that is on our website, just so we know how many to expect. If you could register at bcnwny.org, let us know that you're coming, and we look forward to seeing you. What else is coming up? We have our Mets meetup coming up on October 20th. That is a meetup around lunchtime for those diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. If you've got questions about that or would like to attend, feel free to email at the info mailbox at BCN or to my personal email, whichever you have. And I just want to take a moment as we transition into Breast Cancer Awareness Month, just to acknowledge all of you that are here and with us today to learn something new, as well as acknowledging those that are not with us due to breast cancer. Um, you know, Pinkwashing is going to be, I think, an intense one this year with different groups and businesses creating pink items that don't necessarily help the cause. So consider, before you buy pink, think where it's coming from, where the funds are going. There are wonderful, wonderful fundraisers that support pink items if that is up your alley. And if you need help finding any of those organizations, feel free to give us a call or an email. We're happy to help you with that. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Nicole, and I hope everybody enjoys our session today. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Am I supposed to be able to see everybody? Because I only see like two like windows. Is that okay that I don't see people?
Yeah, that's perfect. It's just,
Okay, making
yeah.
sure that everything's fine and everybody can hear me. If there's any problems, I guess just let them know if you can't hear me very well. Um, but as I said, my name is Dr. Nicole, Dr. Nicole Andrus. I'm with Buffalo Pelvic Health and Acupuncture Clinic. We're down on Niagara Street. And today we're going to be talking about acupuncture for perimenopause, menopause, and then also postmenopause, as well as some other things that acupuncture can help with. And as we're going through this presentation today, if there's questions that do pop up, I believe you're able to put those into the chat, and we'll have a good amount of time at the end of the presentation to go over those as well. And so just a little bit about me. I am nationally and New York State certified and licensed acupuncturist. And I hold a doctorate in acupuncture and Oriental medicine from Pacific College of Health Sciences, and that's out of San Diego, California. And that's also where I got my master's degree in traditional Oriental medicine. And I studied in both the San Diego and Chicago, Illinois campuses. And while one of my specialties is women's health, some of my other subspecialties are sports medicine acupuncture, as well as acupuncture facial rejuvenation. And my bachelor's degree is in science and business administration from The Ohio State University. So if we have any Buckeye fans there, go Bucks.
OH.
All right, IO. I always find Buckeyes wherever I go. It's really quite great. Even when I was out in California, and I did a hike in Peru with one of my friends for my birthday, and we ran into somebody from Ohio State, which was kind of remarkable, actually. But so here we're going to talk a little bit about the phases of menopause, and some of this stuff you might already know, and some of it might be a refresher, and some of it might be new. And so when we're looking at the differences between perimenopause and menopause, the basic thing is perimenopause can really start at any time. People start noticing things around the age of 40, but it can be as early as 30 for some people or as late as 50. Some people have periods that are completely cyclical, normal until about the age of 50. But menopause is when we actually have the end of our menstrual cycle. And that tends to be a little bit later, around 50, but can range from 45 to 55. And both of these phases have hormonal shifts that can have various impacts on the body. So first, we're going to start with the perimenopause phase. And so some of the common symptoms that we see that maybe our friends are talking about or that we see in the media is, number one, irregular periods. Like they start to shift. And that could be the length of the period, that could be the amount of blood flow, the color, even the time in between the period. So it's like maybe you were used to having a 28, 30-day cycle, and now maybe you're having a 21-day, or perhaps maybe a 35-day. With those kind of changes, as well as the amount of blood flow happening during that time. Also, this is when we start to notice those temperature fluctuations. And most commonly, they come up as night sweats or like hot flashes, but it can also be some sensitivity to cold. Some people will start to have cold fingers, cold toes, or they notice that they want to have a cardigan even in like the spring or summertime. Mood swings tend to be one as well. And we tend to hear about the irritability and the short temperedness, but what is also pretty common is that having some bouts of depression or like frustration with the irritability is, that can happen when we have the changes in the amount of estrogen that's being produced. And we also start to notice sleep disturbances. And this tends to be more of not having restful sleep. That's like when you start to notice that happen, it's like, we might be kind of getting into that perimenopausal stage. Some people will experience more bouts of insomnia or waking up in the middle of the night, like around 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., like eyes wide awake, and they start just making that list in their head, ruminating thoughts, things like that. Other times it can be just a tossing and turning. So if you are someone who generally had some really good quality sleep and then all of a sudden it switches, this could be a little bit of a clue that you might be entering into that perimenopause stage. Also, we start to see some decreased libido during this phase as well. And these are what are interesting, some of the lesser known symptoms. And when I treat people in my clinic, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I've had some of these for 5, 6, 7 years, not knowing I was entering into perimenopause and I could have started to address this a little bit sooner. And so one of the first one is the brain fog and memory issues. A lot of times it gets dismissed if you're going to your GP and people just say, oh, you're just stressed, or this is what happens when you get older. And regardless of whether or not that may be true, you shouldn't have to deal with those things. And so we'll talk a little bit more about how acupuncture and East Asian medicine can help it in a more natural way if that's one of your goals. Also, too, what I've started to see a lot is the joint pain and stiffness. And as we know, as we get older and we're going into we're in the perimenopause stage, and then we go into menopause, we want to be concerned and making sure that our bone density is still good. And so if you start noticing joint pain and stiffness kind of out of the ordinary, if you haven't increased any physical activity, that might be something to be like, maybe I should get my hormone levels checked when you do your normal CBC with your primary care provider, just to see where you're at if you haven't already had one of those done within the past year or so. I think it's really good for anyone over the age of 35 to make sure that their hormone levels are getting checked at least once a year. And then dry skin, dry hair, this also starts to show up. And then also acne can start to show up. And so what I like to let people know is that if you can think back to when you first started menstruating and how your periods were at that point when you were, in your teens, generally speaking, when we start to naturally go through perimenopause and menopause, we kind of go back to what our cycle was like. And so, and I say that not as oh no, if you didn't have a great cycle when you were younger, it's more like, let's get ahead of the game if we can. And so if you knew I broke out all the time, I had a lot of acne, or I had a lot of bad cramping and clotting in my menstrual blood, and maybe you haven't in the past, 20, 30 years of your life, now's the time to start looking and seeing if you start to notice some of these signs coming back, we can get ahead of that game to make sure that this phase of your life is very enjoyable and there's no issues with that. So this is where like knowledge is power, right? Like the more we know, the more we can help do it like gracefully and also like easily. This one too, heart palpitations. Very common in perimenopause. We'll start to see heart palpitations are when the heart just kind of beats a little fast, almost. It can be with or without anxiety. It can be for no reason. You can just be sitting on the couch watching a show, and all of a sudden you're like, why is my heart racing? Very common when hormone levels start to get out of whack a little bit. And then also there is tingling and numbness in certain areas of the body, extremities, or maybe even in like the legs and like just like the upper parts of the legs. People will notice some weird sensations start happening as well. And digestive issues. This is another big one. This is kind of where maybe your bowel movements start to change. So if you had like no problems of having a bowel movement once or twice a day, now it might start looking like, okay, once every couple of days, or it could be a lot looser, like the quality of it can change, or even just having more gas, more bloating. And this kind of cycles back to maybe when you were, first starting to menstruate, like, did you have gas? Did you have bloating around your cycle? Lower abdominal discomfort, that kind of thing can start to come back as our hormone levels are shifting during that time. And so now let's talk a little bit about menopause. And so this is where we have no period for 12 consecutive months. And so sometimes people will think, oh, I'm already in menopause. But if you are still bleeding, even if it's like, I haven't had a period in 9 months, you're still in that like early stages of like perimenopause. Menopause is like this small little window that tends to happen where you're like, okay, I have no period for 12 months. You kind of keep going to see if that's the case. And after a few months or so, then you become like postmenopausal. And so what we start to see ramping up in the menopause phase is more of the hot flashes, more of the night sweats. And then we start to see some vaginal dryness, perhaps, or even thinning of the hair. And this is when weight gain and reduction in muscle starts to come into play. So we'll talk a little bit more in a few slides about how we can start to prevent these things from happening. But when we have a reduction in muscle, it also leads to a reduction in bone mass, and that's what's going to start to increase our risk of osteoporosis as we get older. And some of the lesser known menopause symptoms are dizziness and vertigo. I see this very common, and this kind of piggybacks a little bit onto when you're in perimenopause and you have some of that brain fog or maybe some forgetfulness. Things kind of start to get a little dizzy, get a little woozy. That happens a lot to people during menopause. And also I see a lot of frozen shoulder. This actually happened to my mom out of nowhere. She's like, all of a sudden, she's like, Nick, I don't understand what's wrong with my shoulder. It's bothering me. No injury, no problem. I'm like, well, mom, I'm like, you're in menopause. This is like a menopause symptom. And she's like, no one has ever told this to me. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, let's talk to your doctor about it. She talked with her doctor and she's like, oh, yep, you can get some, you can do some acupuncture, you can do some physical therapy, you can do like personal training. But she's like, yeah, we see it all the time. And so my mom was like, well, why didn't anyone tell me? And this is just one of those things where sometimes it's a communication between providers. So if you're noticing, shoulder pain for no reason, it could be that you're in the menopause phase right now. And then tinnitus, which is the ear ringing or any signs of like hearing changes. So if you're hearing high pitch, low pitch sounds, or if you're missing words or having like periods of silence, that's definitely something that happens during the menopause phase. And definitely talking with, making sure you're just getting like an ENT checkup is really beneficial for that as well. Skin sensitivity starts to show up. So this can be in the form of like hot and cold, like if things are touching the skin, or even just sensation. So if you're someone, say, who maybe gets massages or gets facials or, does any type of like, I don't know, like waxing or piercings, tattoos, you might notice that things start to feel a little bit more sensitive as you're going through the menopause phase of your life. And this can also present as like burning or itching on the skin as well. And sometimes we'll have rashes that might just show up like out of nowhere, basically. And we also start to see this increase in allergies because every 7 years, our whole bodies, our cells turn over. And so we can go in and out of things that we are food sensitive to, that we are environmentally sensitive to. So it maybe when you were younger, you didn't have any problems with like grass, ragweed, the cottonwood, all that stuff, it might change when you are in the menopause, because like around, you know, age 49, we're getting ready to be into that quote unquote menopause time at 50, and it's a 7-year cycle. And so we start to see these things with allergies in food and the environment. And also teeth sensitivity and gum issues. And so this one I don't see as often in my practice, but I do have some friends who are hygienists and dentists, and they always say that right around 45 to 55, they start to see some really big changes in teeth quality, or excuse me, teeth quality, and then the way the gums are. So just make sure you get your checkups every 6 months. And then, as I mentioned, in perimenopause with joint pain and stiffness, now we start to see more of the swelling. And so this is where people can develop osteoarthritis if they've had some injuries in the past that maybe they haven't worked through. We can really start to see joint swelling during this phase as well. And then one of the last ones is nausea, and this can come and go. It's one of the lesser known ones, and it's not super common, but I have seen it, you know, in practice over the past, you know, 5-6 years with treating some people. But yeah. And so let's talk now just a little bit about postmenopause. And so this is the one I mentioned earlier, that it follows right after menopause. So starting 12 months after your last menstrual period, and you basically remain in menopause for the rest of our lives is what happens. And this is where the estrogen levels are significantly lower. And the health risks that we really have here is osteoporosis and heart disease. Those are the main ones that we want to be focusing on. And many menopausal symptoms may start to subside during this phase. So once we're postmenopausal, we start to see people not having the night sweats or the hot flashes or the irritability. Mood starts to level off during this. But some lesser known symptoms that happen during the postmenopause phase are urinary incontinence or frequency. And that's one of the things that we do specialize in at our clinic. Not only do we treat that with acupuncture, but we also treat that with our pelvic floor physical therapist. So if that is a concern, definitely throw some questions in the chat box or to the breast cancer center in there, and then they will be able to, we can talk about it later. The other one here is changes in voice and changes in hair growth patterns. So as our estrogen and testosterone levels start to change, you might notice your voice pattern starting to change as well. And also growth patterns. So this can be like your part, that's like, I have a side part here. This can start to like widen up. You might notice like little spots in areas on your hair. You might even notice it on like body hair as well. For some people, they've been maybe plucking their eyebrows for a long period of time or waxing or things like that, and they notice they no longer have to do that, or hair in their legs isn't, you know, growing back as often. That's also a sign that you're in postmenopause. And then also one of the ones that's a big one that I get a lot of questions about is vaginal atrophy, and this is changes in what the vagina looks like and how things feel with intercourse and self-stimulation. So if you have some questions about those, please put those in that chat, and we'll go through some of those as well. And so with the hormonal fluctuations, this basically what happens here is when estrogen levels start to decline, the normal feedback loop that regulates follicular stimulating hormone is basically disrupted. And so the FSH hormone is produced in the brain, and that stimulates a woman's ovaries to grow follicles and prepare eggs for ovulation. And so during menopause, the FSH levels rise because the ovaries are producing less estrogen. And so the pituitary gland continues to produce the FSH, but the ovaries are just less responsive to it. And so this leads to a buildup of it in the bloodstream. And when we have elevated FSH, it can be a sign that that we're in menopause and that there's this diminished ovarian reserve. And so these hormonal changes, they affect like the brain, the heart, the bones, and other organs. And you can kind of see here on this diagram that when you're in that perimenopausal stage, you're still having this up and down of estrogen and progesterone. I didn't actually put testosterone on here. I apologize for that. But and then as you get into the menopause phase and then out for, when you're postmenopausal for like 5+ years, you can see how these all start to just level off as FSH is continues to rise. And so it's like, how does this happen, right? And so the ovaries just basically, they stop making the estrogen and they no longer release an egg each month, and therefore periods subside. And so early menopause can occur really at any age. And in most cases, there's no apparent cause. But some of the things that will put you into early menopause are the removal of the ovaries. Some breast cancer medications can do this as well. Chemotherapy and radiation therapy can also cause this. And then also we are starting to find that if you have Addison's disease, which is a disease that affects the adrenal glands where they don't produce enough hormones, that's like cortisol and like aldosterone is off, that can also put people into menopause. So it really comes down to hormonal function. And so how does this actually affect our body composition? Because this is one of the things that we see most, and at least in my practice, most people coming in are concerned about how this affects their body and how can they get ahead of the game, right? Or correct something if it's been a few years, right? And so there do still need to be some more studies conducted, but I want to give a little quote here from one of these. It says, from the importance of nutrition in menopause and perimenopause. This was back in the Nutrients Journal magazine. The author discusses how basal metabolism of the female body can decrease significantly during the period of perimenopause and menopause. And so our basal metabolic rate, which is our BMR, it can lower by up to 250 to 300 calories a day without changing anyone's diet. And so this is the question I get a lot of. They're like, Dr. Nicole, I have not changed anything. I eat the same types of foods, the same amount of calories. I'm doing the same activity. Why am I gaining weight? And it's because as we age, unfortunately, in women, our BMR tends to decrease by 250 to 300 calories. And so some people are like, well, then I'll just, eat less. But that doesn't always work, because we need to make sure that we are also focusing on building muscle. And because muscle, it does weigh more than fat, but it also is going to burn any excess fat. And so this is why, if nothing is being done as we're getting into the menopause and post-menopause menopause stage, you can see a 4 to 5 pound increase in your body weight without changing anything. And so mostly this is just the abdominal, which is like the visceral fat, like right around the hips, maybe even like the thighs sometimes. And 60 to 70% of middle-aged women will experience weight gain unless they start to change their diet slightly and how their macros are used, and then also physical activity, which we'll go over here in just a few moments. And so this author also mentions that there's growing evidence that lifestyle factors such as like diet, physical activity, smoking, alcohol consumption, they do have a significant role. And so I'd like to, basically one of the most popular diets out there that everyone talks about is the Mediterranean diet. And it is very effective. It works for a lot of people, but there is no one size fits all. It's a great jumping off point if you've never done it. It has a lot of great benefits from it. I also want to, let me see if I can put this in. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put this in the group chat. I can also email it to Rachel and she can send it to you. But this is a book that, I don't know if you guys can see this. It's called Healing with Whole Foods by Paul Pitchford. This one is really nice. I mean, it's a commitment, but we use this in school, and it basically is about Asian traditions and modern nutrition. So it blends the East with the West, and there's really great information in here. You can go look up specific conditions, but it has recipes, and it talks about how you can optimize your health with a healthy diet. They do talk about the Mediterranean diet in here, but a lot of it is balancing out, making sure you're getting enough protein, making sure you're getting enough healthy fats and healthy carbohydrates. And I'm going to also send this to Rachel. So you'll get this nutritional guidelines handout in your email for everyone who's attended. And basically what this is saying, I'll kind of just Cliff Note version go over this. It has a protein intake. And so you'll want to aim for 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, which sounds like a lot, right? So that means, so 1 kilogram is about 2.2 pounds. And so, for example, if someone who weighs like 150 pounds, they would want 68 grams of protein a day. And you don't want to go below 50 grams to prevent muscle wasting. Now, if you have any issues with kidneys or things like that, I mean, always talk to your GP before making any dietary changes. But in most women, 50 grams is like the bare minimum that you want to have per day. And about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I started to really get into tracking my macros, and I was vastly under what I was needing in protein for a day, and I thought I was doing great. I thought I was killing it, and I was like, wow, okay, I need at least 30 more grams. I'm like, this is hard. And so I have some information on sources that you can like if you eat meat, some sources that are high protein sources for meat, also some plant-based sources as well to help you with that. And then also, protein powders and protein shakes are a great way to do that. They're not my favorite, but in a pinch, they make it happen. And it really does help with appetite control as well. And then also a big thing that I noticed too, and I see in myself, and not only that in my patients, is that your water intake. You want to basically have, if you take your weight in pounds and divide that by 2, that's how many ounces you want to aim for in a day. And most people are nowhere near close to that. And so if you don't want to try and do that overnight. That's not going to be great for your body, because if you think about like a desert and it's like dry and it's cracked and you throw a bunch of water on it, it's going to just flood. It's not going to absorb. It's going to be a bad situation. Same thing with your body. You got to slowly start to like hydrate your body back to the optimal levels, and you're going to feel great once you do it. Your skin's going to look amazing, and you're going to have way more energy when you really hydrate yourself. And this doesn't have to just be like plain old water. Like, so I have some information down here, like some fruits, some vegetables, some foods that have a really high water content. So if you're adding those into your diet, that is going to count toward your daily water intake for the day. Really, in my opinion, the things that don't count for water are your caffeinated beverages. I don't like to count juice because of all the sugar, and alcoholic beverages. Those don't count. But some of these, like these fruits, these vegetables, and other foods that contain high water content, you'll start to notice that you feel real good, and you'll feel less hungry as well too. And then the other thing I have here is information on fiber intake. And so this is based off of age, and this is just some guidelines. Again, always check, with your doctor for you specifically, because they know your whole history. Or if you're working with a dietitian, that's great. And I'm also available for resources. I know some dietitians in the area that are amazing. So if we need any of those resources, I'd be happy to pass those along as well. And then I just have a nice little, because you have to always do the ones to avoid, right? Sorry. These are ones to limit or to avoid. I am someone who does believe 80-20 rule, in a sense. Like if you're, out with friends, or you're at a special event, like, have the cake, have the cocktail, do what you want to do. But the majority of the time, you're doing things really well. Okay. So we'll move on to some common treatment methods for individuals going through, the perimenopause and menopause journey. And so one of the ones that comes up all the time, and that everyone talks about it, is the hormone replacement therapy. And that sometimes is not available for everyone, or they do not want to do that. And the second one that happens is antidepressants. They just want to suppress everything that you're feeling, as opposed to treating the conditions. Third treatment method, which is, I agree, I like this one a lot, is lifestyle changes, diet and exercise. It can be a little bit harder to do, but it's one of the ones that is probably the least expensive, and maybe for some people could be the easiest. The other one is vaginal estrogen, if you're able to do that. And then acupuncture, which is probably my favorite, next to lifestyle changes. And then there's also nothing. Some people don't do anything at all. So today we're going to talk a little bit about acupuncture. And so I can't see anybody here, so I don't know how many people are in here, but if you haven't had acupuncture before, it's basically where we insert these very fine sterile needles into acupuncture points, and they lie along individual meridians, and they're linked. they link the body throughout each other. Okay. And so you can stimulate movement along these neural pathways. It can actually send signals to the brain to, release endorphins, the feel-good chemicals in the body. Also, it gives you that nice dopamine response, which really helps to relax the nervous system. And it can help to balance out hormone levels. So if we know like we're in that perimenopause stage and we need to kind of have a little bit of assistance here, instead of potentially doing like a hormone replacement therapy, we can naturally use the body's own hormones to regulate and to help to address any type of symptomology that we are feeling. And, acupuncture and traditional East Asian medicine or traditional Chinese medicine, it's rooted in the philosophy that nature and its environmental elements are reflected in the body. And so basically what this means is we are treating the root cause of the condition, not just the branch, which is like the symptoms. We want to find out, why is this happening? What's going on? Even if it's a normal phase of life, we want to make sure that we're entering that phase, with as much grace as possible, and without any quote unquote like side effects, right? We don't want to have the night sweats and the hot flashes and the disrupted sleep. We want people to not even know that we're going through it, and we're just getting a couple years older very gracefully, right? And so how this works is, I mentioned just a little bit ago that it stimulates the body's nervous system. So how I like to describe this to people, I'm going to go to this next slide because you can kind of see a better body picture here, is if you think about the body's nervous system, you can kind of see here, like we got some blood vessels, we got some, arteries, some veins. There's this big circuitry system that happens. And so the acupuncture meridians, they lie alongside of all these structures and they stimulate movement up and down. So if you have pain or discomfort in, like, say, maybe your neck or your shoulder, yes, we can put some needles there to help stimulate and move that. But there's also points that are on the hand, like near the knees and on the shins, that open up those channels, those meridians, to relax the nervous system, relax that muscle tissue, because it signals it to the brain. So it's a great way to have a treatment where you don't have to take medication if you don't want to for certain things. And, it can really help to relax your body to where you can sleep better. You'll have better energy. Pain decreases, you get more flexibility and movement because you have the energy to be able to, want to maybe go out for a walk or do like a workout at the gym, things like that. It's really great at increasing blood flow and circulation, which in turn helps with flexibility and range of motion, and also just generalized pain management as well. And so some of the benefits that we have with acupuncture is that it will reduce the amount of hot flashes and night sweats, which are really key for most people, balances out your mood swings and alleviates anxiety, also improves the sleep quality, relieves vaginal dryness, and reduces joint pain and discomfort. And so a question that I do get a lot is, is it proven? Is there evidence? And yes, there's so many more studies now, which is great. I started my acupuncture practice, started practicing acupuncture back in 2011. So it's gotten a lot better with being more published journals and more published studies. And so some studies show that acupuncture reduces hot flashes, anxiety, and sleep disturbances. And this helps to like really balance out all those mood swings. And there was an article that was published in the Menopause journal that it also showed that it relieves vaginal dryness. And I'll show you this next slide here. It has a little bit of some information. I hope it's big enough. I'm not sure if you can read this, but I'll read it. There's a couple of sentences here. It says, acupuncture significantly decreased the psychological, somatic, and urogenital subscale scores on the menopause rating scale. Acupuncture improved the vasomotor subscale score on the menopause specific quality of life questionnaire. And so long-term effects on hot flashes, frequency, and severity were found. And the conclusion they had with this meta-analysis study confirms that acupuncture improves hot flash frequency and severity, menopause-related symptoms, and quality of life in women experiencing natural menopause. So that's pretty remarkable. That was great when I was like, finally, we have some studies that are showing this. And then they had two separate graphics on here. They did it was one of a smaller study, but they had 70 women and they were to rate like it's from 0 to 6 for their hot flashes. And they did this over a 6-week period. So they had a control group, which meant they didn't do anything. Then they had the acupuncture group, which is where they got acupuncture. And patients who patients who received acupuncture demonstrated a significant improvement in reported hot flashes, so a 23%. So if they didn't have acupuncture, they were rating their hot flashes at a 3.8. If they had acupuncture, they were rating it at a 2.4 over that 6-week period. And that was just with having acupuncture treatments once a week. And then they also checked in on sleep in menopause, and same scale, 0 to 6, same 6-week period. Control group was at a 2.94 out of 6 is what they rated their sleep disturbances. The acupuncture group only had a 1.34 over that 6-week period. So they showed that there was like this 27% like improvement, like versus having acupuncture versus not having acupuncture. And a lot of times too, when I'm working with people in clinic, they'll ask, we'll be focusing maybe on some perimenopause or menopause symptoms. And then as we get to know each other, we start to talk about other things in life as you do. And they always ask, are there other things that acupuncture can treat? And I was like, absolutely. And so these are some of the things that are listed on the National Institute of Health and the World Health Organization website that it has been shown and proven that acupuncture can successfully treat. So we see things within like the upper respiratory tract and lower eye disorders and any mouth disorders. Gastrointestinal is another big one that's starting to be studied, which is really great. So a lot of people suffer from that and have to take a lot of medication that sometimes they don't want to be on. And then also neurological and muscular disorders. That's what's been researched the most. You can see some conditions that are listed there, reproductive and gynecological conditions, as well as mental health and emotional concerns. And so these are just a few of them. There's definitely more, but a lot of times people will ask me, well, how often should I get acupuncture? And the answer is it really does depend. And I know that that's not an answer anybody wants to hear, but until we get to know you a little bit better, sometimes it's hard to kind of gauge. So what we like to do is we like to start out with maybe 1 to 2 times a week for the first month. We want to see what's working, what might not be working, are we having any changes? And then we can reassess and find out a plan that works best for each person's individual needs. Sometimes that means you come in once a week for a little bit longer. Sometimes it is, every 2 weeks. And sometimes it's maybe every 5 to 6 weeks, depending on what your goals are. Are things improving? Are things holding long enough with your lifestyle? And the initial treatment lasts 90 minutes where we'll go over your medical history, any concerns you want, kind of make a list if you want of like your goals. And then we do treatment same day as well. And then follow-up treatments are anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes, depending on, how much we're talking and things like that. But I always tell people, book yourself an hour, and sometimes you might get out a little bit earlier, but sometimes you're there for about 60 minutes. And one of the main things that I try to do when I do, presentations like these is timing, right? We usually see patients as a last resort. I can't tell you how many times someone has come to me and they're like, I've tried everything else. I'm going to try acupuncture. I've had this condition for 20 years or 15 years. And I was like, okay, I need a little bit of time to work with you on this. Ideally, I would love to see people much sooner when they start to develop, signs and symptoms. And so my big thing is I love educating people about what acupuncture can do. So even though I know we're going to be doing some questions and answers later on here, but if we don't get to all of them, I'll have my contact info up. Please email me, please call. I'd be happy to chat on the phone with you. So I want to make sure any questions about this get answered for sure. And I also love working with doctors and having collaborative care as long as your providers are open to it. So we will look at your MRIs, we will look at your x-rays, we will look at your blood tests, we will look at your diet and lifestyle. And if you have some of those providers where you want like cohesive healthcare, I have no problem working with them. They can be in a different state, they can be down the road, it doesn't matter. The goal is to get you better. And I think when you have multiple people on that team, it's great, but you also want to make sure that they all are talking, right? And that we all have the same goals in mind. And so kind of as I mentioned earlier, like our goal is to really help you personally and your family achieve and maintain healthy lifestyles through natural and a safe approach. And so I always like to use this analogy. I know it seems kind of corny, but it really makes sense. When we have symptoms in our body, it's letting us know that something is wrong, that something's not normal. But like if you're driving down the road and your check engine light comes on, or you start to see like that oil light, like what do? You don't put like a piece of like tape over it and just like pretend like it doesn't exist. Because if so, you're gonna like end up, stalled on the side of the road, or something's gonna fall out of your car. But we don't do that with our bodies. When we start seeing symptomology or something starts to hurt, we just kind of keep going, and we just like, oh, maybe it'll just go away. So our body deserves the same attention that our vehicles do. So that way we can prevent a big malfunction from happening. So when you start to see some warning signs, that's your body letting you know, hey, we need to start like looking at stuff. So you have a couple choices today. You can continue doing the same stuff that you're doing currently and getting, the same results, or you can try something new like acupuncture, which I think would be great, and you'll definitely get a different result with that. So I think this would be a good time to maybe open it up to some questions. It looks like we have maybe, I think, from 15, 20 minutes left. Is that right? Are we good?
We are good. And I've got a couple questions already ready to go.
Fantastic. Let's hear it.
You referenced a book for food options. What was the name of that book?
Yes. So this is right here. It's Healing with Whole Foods, and it's by Paul Pitchford.
Okay.
Yep. And you can get those at like your local bookstore. You can have them order them. If you'd like, I can send I'll send it to you. I'll send you the ISBN information. That way, if you want to email everyone who is on the call today, they can have that information. I'll get that out to you afterwards tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And then the
Plenty of
next
other
is
ones. There's so many
method.
other books too. So if you want some more books, I can give you some more books. That's just one of the ones I like.
Cool. And then let's see, I have a message from Kat. She says, I had acupuncture when I was going through chemo. It was so helpful for nausea.
Great.
I'm post-meno now and have lymphedema in my arm. Can I have acupuncture now? I have several issues I'd like addressed, but I'm concerned about my lymphedema.
Great question. And the answer is yes, you can have acupuncture. I have worked with people that have lymphedema, and it really depends on your doctor and your oncologist. Some do not want any needles in the affected area because they're concerned potentially about cellulitis, but that we can totally avoid the affected area and still treat the edema through other areas of the body. So as long as your doctor's okay with that, or if they want to talk to me and I can explain like what I'd be doing, and I can either avoid that area if they don't want me to go there, we can totally do that as well. That's not a problem. Great
Awesome.
question.
Great to hear. I know I was curious about that one as well.
Yeah. And also I have a really great couple great resources too. If you're open to doing like lymph drainage massage, some doctors will allow that depending on where you are in your journey. And so I can send those resources also to you as well. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. If anybody else has questions, feel free to type them into the Q&A box. If you wiggle your mouse, it should be an option at the bottom of your screen. But feel free to raise your hand.
Yeah, don't be afraid. Like we won't use your name if you want to ask something that's a little bit, no one will know if it's you.
Yeah, there is an anonymous option on the Q&A. We have a question. What is the cost typically for an acupuncture session?
Yeah, great question. And I really wish I had pulled things up because we recently started doing packages. And so I'm gonna make myself a note. I'm gonna send you a bunch of stuff then today. Let me write this down. So the first, if I remember this correctly, please don't quote me on this, but our first initial visit is $235, follow-ups are $160. But we do package deals that you can save money on those, because generally, like as I mentioned earlier, you're going to probably need at least 4 to 5 treatments to really make a difference, to see like that compounding, like how it compounds in the body, because acupuncture works cumulatively. So as we do one treatment, your body makes that change. You might hold it for like a couple of days or so, but then you need another treatment to kind of be like, okay, let's correct it again, because our body likes to go back into its most comfortable state. And sometimes that's dysfunction because it's been used to it for so long. And so we need a couple treatments to really have the body correct it and hold it. And so that's why we started doing packages to make sure that everybody gets the care that they need, because this medicine does work. You just got to give it the chance to let it work, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
also too, if you have a flexible spending account or a health spending account, that does cover acupuncture. And then I always tell people, if you have insurance, call your insurance provider and ask them if they cover acupuncture. And if they do, you can ask them if they cover out-of-network providers. And if so, then that can be used for your treatments. We don't have an insurance biller in-house, but what we can do is supply you with what's called a super bill. It's like a medical receipt that you would send to your insurance company, and they would pay you back directly for the visit.
Perfect. That was another question in there. So I just typed it in. All right. And then question, did you say that you can use acupuncture for pelvic floor problems? I think they meant to say maybe such as incontinence.
Yes.
Um,
Yep,
yes.
you are absolutely correct. So there's a combination of things that we do in our clinic. Since I'm one of the acupuncturists, we definitely can do acupuncture and herbal therapy. If you wanted to do over you don't have to. It's an option to help with incontinence. But then also we have our pelvic floor therapists on staff as well that specialize in incontinence. And we also have what's called a shockwave soft wave machine. It's looks almost like an ultrasound, but it sends an energy pulse to the pelvic floor area to help reduce any inflammation and relax some of the muscles if the muscles needed to be relaxed. So it depends on the level that we select for the machine. That can also help with the urinary incontinence. And with that, we need to delve a little bit deeper into what type of incontinence that is, because sometimes it's a stress incontinence where it's like coughing, sneezing, laughing, or running. Other times it's just like you're sitting down and all of a sudden a little bit kind of comes out. Is it just a couple drops? Is it a full bladder release? Are you having to, wear pads throughout the day? Those kinds of things. So we can see what level you are at and let you know what the best course of action for treatment would be. Sometimes it's just one thing. Sometimes it might be a group of things to get you to your goals. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Got some more in. All right. Will the papers you showed after the book suggestion be shared? Those were the ones you were going to email to me.
I did
Um,
email them to you.
so, oh, perfect.
I tried to see if I could drop it into the group chat for everybody, but it won't let
Yeah.
me do it from this screen. I don't know why.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I got the email. We'll make sure it gets sent out to all of you attendees for tonight. Um, for sure, we'll get you those informational papers. This person also said, I am 2 weeks into acupuncture as part of my menopausal journey for joint pain from meds, and it has been amazing results already.
Great. Glad to hear it.
So
So good to
that's
hear.
awesome. And then we have a message and question. It says, I am in medical menopause. When I
Mhm.
am finished with ovarian suppression in approximately 8 years, what typically happens? Will the symptoms change significantly? They will be about 53 years old at that point.
Oh, when you're done. Okay. So in my experience, honestly, it's a case by case. Some people, nothing changes at all. They still have, or they have no symptoms whatsoever. Are you currently experiencing symptoms? Did they say?
They did not specify yet. However, knowing what tidbits of info I know,
Okay.
that this person may be experiencing some
Okay.
side effects already.
Yeah. And so if you're currently experiencing some side effects, I would start doing treatment for it, to be honest with you. I really truly would. Because then once the suppression stops, like you're already ahead of the game, and hopefully you don't notice, like symptoms are gone and you don't notice anything, and you could potentially be in that menopause state where things are starting to naturally subside anyway. But if you are starting to see some signs right now, I would get ahead of that game for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they specified that symptoms are joint pain, particularly in the feet.
Joint pain in the feet. Yeah. And so a lot of that is sometimes that can be like numbness and tingling too, because neuropathy is one of the main things I see as a side effect. That and some nausea, and acupuncture is great at, increasing blood flow and circulation to the body. And so if you're feeling like the joint pain and like, or maybe even like heaviness in the feet and the limbs, or any temperature irregularities in the feet and limbs too, we can definitely work on that for sure.
Yeah. All right. I'm looking through. I think we've answered everything that's up at the moment.
Okay.
So feel free to go back to any points that you were like, oh, I wanted to mention that or anything. I'll give a minute for anyone to type anything that they might be.
I'm going to stop my share because I might be able to drop some of that info in the chat now when I
Oh,
stop.
sure. Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if this will change anything. Let's see here. One second. I can go back and get to that book one at least. I don't know if you're able to see like if people can like answer this question or not, but of the people that are on this webinar, like I know we have one person that's doing acupuncture, which is great. Is there anyone else that has done it? Like, do we have some people that have already experienced acupuncture, or are they have any questions just in general, curiosities about anything? Doesn't have to be, if you don't, doesn't have to be menopause related if you don't want it to be. Okay, I'm gonna send this. I think this should go through. Hopefully it does. Did that show up? That's the book, Healing with Whole Foods. That link.
I got it as a direct message to me, but I don't think the participants got it.
Okay. Oh, I
Let
see.
me,
I see. I have to go to everyone. I found it. That was user error. That was my fault. There we go.
there we go.
Perfect. Okay. Good.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna click into the Q&A. Oh no, it says chat is disabled. Let me see why it says that. I'm so sorry, anonymous attendee. Let's see. Are you trying to chat or do you wanna? Oh, there we go. The book came through. Okay.
It came through? Okay, good.
Yep. Wonderful. Thank you, anonymous. All
Great.
right. Done. All right. I'm going to give us maybe like one more minute just to ensure that there's no lingering questions or anything. But I want to say before we wrap up, if you have questions that you just like think of later or weren't comfortable to ask tonight, in this type of setting, Dr. Nicole is available, as she said, via email and phone. Um, or if you have trouble getting connected, you can always call us at BCN. We'll be happy to connect you to their office or any other resources that you might need. But I think,
I just dropped my email in there too. If you don't want to email the office, that's the info one. If you want to email me personally, go ahead and drop me a message. Just let me know, hey, I attended the Breast Cancer Network Western New York webinar. I have some questions. Be happy to answer those there or give you a call and we can chat on the phone. Not a problem.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Nicole. We appreciate your time and
Hey, it was
expertise.
great.
I know I learned a lot tonight. It was really interesting.
I know
You
it can be
know,
a lot of information, and sometimes you need a couple minutes or a day to digest it, and then you're like, oh, I have all these questions. So just call me or email me.
exactly. Exactly. It happens. All right, folks. Well, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And if you've got any questions, you know where to find us.
Yep,
Bye.
and if you wanted to rewatch anything, this will be posted on our YouTube channel tomorrow morning at some point.
Yes, it will be on the YouTube. Stay tuned.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, perfect. I think it's down to just a few of us left on here. I just want to see who's lingering. Oh, I wish I knew how to work this better.
Every time I log into Zoom and I'm doing something, I'm like, something has changed. And I'm like, what's happening?
They update it, I swear, like once a week.
No, and I was like, wait. That's why I was like, why can't I drop in the form for everybody? Because I used to be able just to add it from the chat, and that maybe because it was disabled. I don't know. Maybe that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
We-
will have Lindsay, she's one of our admins. I'll have her
Mhm.
send the package information, like pricing stuff for people.
Yeah, yeah.
A little sheet that tells people how to check if they have, kind of like what I said, check if they have in coverage, but it's like a step kind of thing, step by step. So people are like, what am I supposed to do? And then
Yep.
was there something else I was supposed to send you? Oh no, I dropped the book in there, so people have the book. So I think it was just pricing, right?
Yep.
I had questions about.
Yep. You sent the other packet to me already. I got it in my email. So
Perfect.
we're
So then
cruising.
I'll have Lindsay get that to you, get that to you guys tomorrow, and we should be all set then.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thanks so much for the opportunity. It was great.
Awesome. I hope it brings you maybe some new connections and some new
Hopefully so. Hopefully so.
friendly
I was bummed.
faces.
I like to see people though, and I feel weird just talking to like a screen.
I know it's hard. It's really hard to engage this way. Totally.
Yeah. I was like, is anybody out there? This is kind of
Tap, tap, tap.
I know. Is this thing on? All right. Well, again, have a great evening and be in touch.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.